Welcome to the lecture on Chapter 1. So we're looking at business analytics, and it's important to understand why it's become such an important area and it has such promising job growth. There's three developments that have spurred recent growth in the use of analytic methods in business. The first development is technological advances. These include things like scanner technology, data collection through e-commerce, internet social networks, and data generated from personal electronic devices. These produce incredible amounts of data for business to analyze. Secondly, business wants to use data to improve efficiency and the profitability of their operations. They can do this by better understanding their customers, pricing their products more effectively, and doing all manner of things to gain a competitive advantage over in the marketplace. The second development is ongoing research that's resulted in numerous methods that have improved. These include computational approaches to effectively handle and explore massive amounts of data, big data operations, faster algorithms that we can use for optimization and simulation, and more effective approaches for visualizing data. The third development is the improvement in methods when paired with an explosion in computing power and storage capability that we've seen in the last 20 years. Better computing hardware, parallel computing, and cloud computing have enabled businesses to solve big problems faster and more accurately than before. We're using business analytics to drive data-driven decisions. So managers have a responsibility to make strategic, tactical, and operational decisions. Strategic decisions involve higher level issues concerned with the overall direction of the organization, and they define the organization's overall goals and aspirations for the future. Tactical decisions concern how the organization should achieve the goals and objectives set by its strategy. They're usually the responsibility of mid-level management. Operational decisions affect how the firm is run day to day, and they're the domain of operations managers who are closest to the customer. Decision-making is a process that involves identifying and defining the problem, determining the criteria that will be used to evaluate alternative solutions to that problem, looking for a set of alternative solutions, and then applying the criteria you develop to that set of alternative solutions to evaluate them, and then choosing the best alternative according to the criteria that you have set up. Common approaches to making decisions include traditional, that's the way we've always done it, intuition on the part of the decision maker, rules of thumb, and the last and most important is using relevant data. And that's where business analytics comes in, is we can look at business analytics as a scientific process of transforming a business problem into a data problem. And then we can apply data analytic methods to that data problem. And again, we want to have management making data-driven decisions. That's going to be produce better results in the long term than intuition or rules of thumb or tradition. That's the way we've always done things. The tools of business analytics can aid decision-making by creating insights from the data. It can improve our ability to more accurately forecast for planning purposes. It can help us quantify risk and yield better alternatives through analysis and optimization. So what are the categories of analysis that we might do? Well, the first is descriptive analytics. This is a set of techniques that describe what has happened in the past. And some examples would be data queries from your database, reports, descriptive statistics on that database, the average sales in 2019, also data visualization. And this includes dashboards, data mining techniques where you're looking for patterns in your data, and what if spreadsheet models. We'll be covering a lot of these in the course, so you'll know exactly how to do those. A data query is a request for information with certain characteristics from a database. And dashboards are a collection of tools, tables, charts, maps, and summary statistics that are updated as new data becomes available. You use dashboards to help management monitor specific aspects of a company's performance related to their decision-making responsibilities. For corporate level managers, daily data dashboards might summarize sales by region, current inventory levels, and other company-wide metrics. Frontline managers may view dashboards that contain metrics related to staffing levels, local inventory levels, and short-term forecasts. Data mining is the use of analytical techniques to look for and understand patterns and relationships that exist in large data sets. Some examples are cluster analysis and sentiment analysis. Predictive analytics consist of techniques that use models constructed from past data to predict the future or determine the impact of one variable on another. So we're classifying things or we're determining relationship between things. Survey data and past purchase behavior may be used as an example to help predict the market share of a new product. The techniques used in predictive analytics include linear regression, time series analysis, data mining to find patterns or relationships among elements of the data, simulation, and that involves the use of probability and statistics to construct a computer model to study the impact of uncertainty on a decision. Prescriptive analytics indicates a best course of action to take. So it provides a forecast or prediction, but often when we have a prediction, we don't have a decision associated with it. A forecast or prediction, when combined with a rule, becomes a prescriptive model. Prescriptive models that rely on a rule or a set of rules are often referred to as rule-based models. So we might have something where we look at a prediction of sales growth, and then an action to take would be a rule. So the sales growth is a predictive analytic, and then a prescriptive analytic is where we apply a rule to that. If sales growth is less than 5%, then we need to increase our marketing budget. That would be a rule that we would use in prescriptive models. Big data is available now because of the rise of the internet and e-commerce on the internet. And so we have massive amounts of data. And big data is any data that is too large or too complex to be handled by standard data processing techniques. And IBM developed a rule of the 4 V's for big data: volume, velocity, variety, and veracity. Volume in big data is going to be terabytes to exabytes of data that you need to process. Velocity is where it's coming in very fast. It's streaming data and you have milliseconds to respond. Variety is it can be in many different formats: structured, unstructured, text, even multimedia. And veracity is data in doubt, uncertainty due to data inconsistencies and incompatibilities and incompleteness across regions of the world, ambiguities, latency, and model approximations that you have in different places. Volume is because data are collected electronically more and more today, so we're able to collect a lot more of it. To be useful, these data have to be stored, and this has led to vast quantities of data. Velocity, the real-time capture and analysis of data, this presents unique challenges both in how data are stored and the speed with which the data can be analyzed for decision-making. A variety, we have more complicated types of data available now, and these prove to be of great value to businesses. Text data are collected by monitoring what is being said about a company's products or services on social media platforms. Audio data are collected from service calls. Video data are collected by in-store video cameras and used to analyze shopping behavior. Analyzing information generated by these non-traditional sources is more complicated in part because of the processing required to transform the data into a numerical form that can be analyzed. And finally, veracity has to do with how much uncertainty is in the data. We have inconsistencies in units of measure across the world, and oftentimes we have a lack of reliability of responses in terms of biases, and that also increases the complexity of the data. So big data represents opportunities, and it also presents challenges. The challenges are in terms of data storage and processing and security, and analytical talent to deal with such large amounts of data. Hadoop is an open source programming environment that supports big data processing, and MapReduce is a programming model used within Hadoop that performs complex analytic operations. So big business analytics in practice. We have to think also of data security. It's a protection of this stored data from destructive forces or from unauthorized users. And that has led companies to search for data scientists who know how to process and analyze massive amounts of data and also to secure it properly. One of the new areas of business analytics is the Internet of Things. And this is technology that allows data collected from sensors in all types of machines to be sent over the internet to repositories where it can be stored and analyzed. So here's a spectrum chart or graph of business analytics. We see descriptive analytics in the bottom left corner That's your standard reporting, data queries, data visualization, descriptive statistics such as average, standard deviation. Next, we have predictive analytics, data mining, forecasting, and predictive analytics. Then we have prescriptive, which would be things like simulation, rule-based models, decision analysis, and optimization. And we'll be covering most of these in the course of the semester. Predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics are sometimes referred to as advanced analytics. Financial analytics is the use of predictive models to forecast financial performance, assess the risk of investment portfolios and projects, construct financial instruments such as derivatives, construct optimal portfolios of investments, allocate assets, and create optimal capital budgeting plans. And we'll be doing various problems that do exactly these kind of functions. Simulation is also used, and it's used often to assess risk in the financial sector. A new area in analytics, in business analytics, is human resource analytics. The HR function is charged with ensuring that the organization has the right mix of skills necessary to meet its future demands, that they're hiring the best quality talent and providing an environment that retains it and achieves its organizational diversity goals. Marketing analytics is also a fast-growing area for the application of analytics. A better understanding of consumer behavior through the use of scanner data and data generated from social media has led to an increased interest in marketing analytics. Marketing analytics is giving us a better understanding of computer behavior, and that leads to better use of our advertising budgets, more effective pricing strategies, improved forecasting of demand, and improved product line management. We also have a growth in healthcare analytics, and these are predictive, descriptive, and prescriptive analytics to improve patient, staff, and facility scheduling, patient flow, purchasing, and inventory control. And the use of prescriptive analytics for diagnosis and for treatment may improve the healthcare system, and it may prove to be the most important application of analytics in healthcare. Another area is supply chain analytics. The core of companies such as UPS and FedEx is an efficient delivery of goods, and analytics has long been used in these industries to achieve that efficiency. The optimal sorting of goods, vehicle and staff scheduling, and vehicle routing are all key to profitability for logistics companies such as UPS and FedEx. These companies can benefit from better inventory and processing control and more efficient supply chains. And finally, we have analytics for business and nonprofits, analytics for government to drive out inefficiencies and increase the effectiveness and accountability of programs, and for nonprofits to ensure their effectiveness and accountability to their donors and clients. Sports teams are using analytics also. They use it to assess players for the draft. They decide how much to offer players in contract negotiations. Professional motorcycle racing teams use sophisticated optimization for gearbox design to gain a competitive advantage. And teams use on-field decisions with business analytics to, for example, determine which pitchers to use in various games of a Major League Baseball playoff series. The use of analytics for off-the-field business decisions is increasing in sports as well. Using prescriptive analytics, sports franchises across several major sports dynamically adjust ticket prices throughout the season to reflect the relative attractiveness and potential demand for each game. We also have web analytics, and this is the analysis of online activity, which includes visits to websites and social media sites, such as Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Leading companies apply descriptive and advanced analytics to data collected in online experiments to determine the best way to configure websites, position ads, and utilize social networks for the promotion of products and services. One of the most famous examples of the application of business analytics was in marketing. And it was dealing with cigarette sales in the early 1950s. In the 1950s, scientific studies were beginning to show that smoking led to an increase in the chance of getting lung cancer. The science at that time also said that filtered cigarettes would protect you from that cancer causing agent. Now, from the 1920s through the early 1950s, women smoked filtered cigarettes and men smoked unfiltered cigarettes. So there was a great potential for taking over the market of men's cigarettes because men were concerned about cancer, but they wouldn't smoke filters because they considered them to be effeminate. So a business analyst named Draper Daniels, who worked for the Leo Barnett marketing agency, did an extensive study at the behest of Philip Morris about one of their brands. They had a brand called Marlboro, which was a ladies' cigarette, and it was pitched as mild as May. And it had the filters and the ivory tips to protect the lips, as we see in this advertising that was from the early 1950s and late 1940s. So what Draper Daniels discovered was that men did want to smoke filter cigarettes because they did want the protection from the cancer-causing agent. And again, that was the science in the early 1950s. Of course, that changed over time. But at that time, that was what people were thinking. They wanted the filters to protect themselves from the cancer-causing agents. But at the same time, men did not want to appear effeminate. So Draper Daniels came up with a marketing campaign based around a cowboy named Clarence Long, who was smoking filtered cigarettes. And they changed the image of Marlboro to make it a very masculine cigarette. And they did it by pitching people like football players and Marines and Air Force jet pilots and so on, all smoking filtered cigarettes. So you then had this image of, well, Marlboro is definitely a man's cigarette, and you don't even concern yourself with the fact that it's filtered. They started this advertising campaign in November of 1954, and it became the greatest success in business history in the 20th century. And Marlboro became one of the great money-making machines of the 20th century. In a single year after they introduced this marketing campaign, sales increased 3,241%, and the sales of Marlboro cigarettes went from 18 million cigarettes to over 5 billion in 1955. They also changed all aspects of the product, including the packaging. They made it more geometric, which appealed to men, and less cursive and stylish, like you see on the left here, that had appealed to women at that time. So there's this whole change of attributes based on a discovery by a business analyst that proved to be one of the greatest. It took a product that was barely profitable and that Philip Morris was thinking of dumping and made it into the great money-making machine that it was and still is. Okay, thank you.